Let me tell you what happens when you answer a distress call from a station that should have stayed silent. Let me tell you about the voice that shouldn't exist, the choir that never stops singing, and the hunger that waits in the gaps between your heartbeats. Let me tell you about Station Kairos. And when I'm done, when you've heard every word, every detail, every terrible revelation, ask yourself this: can you hear it? In the silence between these words, in the pause between your own breaths? Because if you can, it's already too late. This is Brother Sergeant Malchior Varn, Black Templar, seconded to the Deathwatch, service number 77 Theta Epsilon 3941. Number. Strike that. The service number doesn't matter anymore. Numbers don't matter. Names barely matter. What matters is that someone, anyone, hears this, understands what happened on Vandis Theta, understands what we found in the dark between stars. I've been recording everything since we docked. Every moment, every death, every whisper and scream and prayer that should have saved us, but only fed the thing that waited in the silence. The Inquisition will want to purge these files. They'll classify them as cognito-hazardous, mimetic threats. They'll say that even knowing about what happened here puts your soul at risk. They're right, but I've hidden redundancies. 17 separate data cores, each one encrypted with a different cipher, each one programmed to release if I don't input my authentication codes within a specified time frame. I've scattered them across substations, relay buoys, and even hidden one in the cogitator banks of the Thunder's Word itself. They can't silence all of them. They can't stop the truth from spreading. The truth. What a strange concept that's become. I used to know what truth meant. It meant the Emperor's word. It meant the certainty of bolter rounds and chainsword teeth. It meant that when you cut open a Xenos, it bled and died and stayed dead. But out here, in the void between stars, in the station that learned to breathe, I discovered that truth is just another frequency, another vibration that can be consumed, digested, and transformed into something else entirely. They say, a space marine knows no fear, that our psycho-conditioning, our hypnotic programming, our 19 gene-forged organs, and our absolute faith in the God Emperor make us immune to terror. The chapter masters speak of courage as if it's a physical thing we carry in our secondary heart, pumping through our veins alongside our blood. They're wrong. Fear isn't what you feel when you face death. I've faced death 1,000 times. I've stood in the path of orc warbands and tyrannid swarms. I've looked into the multifaceted eyes of Genestealer patriarchs and felt nothing but righteous fury. Number. Fear, true fear, the kind that unmakes you from the inside, is what you feel when death speaks back to you in your own voice. When your prayers echo with words you didn't say. When your brothers die and continue talking, continue laughing, continue existing in a way that makes a mockery of everything the Codex Astartes taught you about life and death. Fear is realizing that silence isn't the absence of sound, it's appetite. This is the chronicle of Kill-Team Erebus. 5 brothers, chosen from 5 different chapters, seconded to the Deathwatch, sent to investigate a simple distress call. 5 warriors who had survived horrors that would break lesser men. 5 dead men who just didn't know it yet. My name is Malchior Varn. I was a Black Templar. I was faithful. I was certain. And I learned, Emperor, forgive me. I learned that certainty is just noise waiting to be consumed. This is the story of the silence that learned to feast, and the 5 fools who fed it. Chapter 1, The Voice That Shouldn't Be, Mission Log, Brother Sergeant Varn, Date Stamp, 3.417.997.M41. Imperial Standard Time, mark 1700 hours. Kill-Team Erebus deployed in high orbit of Vandis Theta, Ghoul Stars region, Segmentum Obscurus. The mission parameters were simple. elegantly simple in the way that makes veteran warriors nervous. Research Station Kairos, a Mechanicus facility studying acoustic anomalies in the void, had gone dark approximately 3 standard weeks prior. No distress beacon, no scheduled transmissions, no response to hails from passing Imperial vessels, just silence. Complete, absolute silence. The Adeptus Mechanicus had initially assumed equipment failure. Standard protocol in such cases is to dispatch a tech crew for repairs and assessment, but when the repair vessel arrived and attempted to dock, something happened. The details in the briefing were vague, redacted, but the outcome was clear. The repair vessel retreated immediately and requested inquisitorial intervention. That's where we came in. The Inquisition doesn't commit significant resources without cause. They don't deploy full battle groups for equipment failures. So instead, they sent us 5 Deathwatch veterans, 5 of the Imperium's finest Xenos hunters, each one a specialist in his own right, each one blooded in campaigns that would have destroyed lesser warriors. 5 brothers who thought they'd seen everything. Emperor, forgive me. Emperor, forgive us all. We actually thought it would be simple. Let me tell you about my team. About the brothers who stood with me, who died with me, even though some of them are still walking, still talking, still singing in frequencies I pray you never hear. Brother Kyle, Tech Marine, seconded from the Iron Hands, though he bore the black and silver of the Deathwatch with pride. His mind was a beautiful thing. It danced between machine code and high Gothic prayer with equal fluency, finding the divine in both the organic and the mechanical. He could commune with machine spirits as easily as breathing, could coax cooperation from the most recalcitrant cogitator. His servo arms were works of art, each one customized for specific tasks, each one blessed and anointed according to the rites of Mars. I remember the first time I saw him interface with a corrupted data core, his augmetic eye whirring and clicking as he sorted through terabytes of information in seconds. The Omnissiah speaks to those who listen, he told me. The key is learning the right frequency. He learned a frequency, all right, one he should never have heard. Brother Rogan, Space Wolf, loud, proud, and perpetually spoiling for a fight. He wore his pelts and totems even over the Deathwatch armor, insisted on keeping his traditional weapons, a frost axe he'd named Fenger, claiming it meant seeker in his chapter's tongue. He had that Space Wolf's arrogance, that absolute certainty that his way was the right way, but he'd earned it through a century of combat. He laughed at everything, at danger, at death, at Xenos horrors that would have frozen a normal human's blood. I'd seen him laugh while tearing through a Genestealer brood with his bare hands, covered in alien ichor, surrounded by chittering death. His laughter was infectious, warm, human, in a way we Space Marines often aren't. On Station Kairos, I learned that laughter can be weaponized, that joy can be twisted into something that feeds on itself, growing louder and louder until it's not laughter anymore but a scream wearing laughter's face. Brother Asterion, Minotaur chapter. He spoke only when silence failed, which meant he rarely spoke at all. When the others debated tactics or shared war stories, Asterion simply stood, watched, waited. His thunderhammer, Tauran's Wrath, was almost as tall as a normal human. He'd crush orc war bosses with it. I'd watched him pulverize a Carnifex into paste with 3 strikes. He was our anchor, our wall, the brother you wanted at your back when everything went to hell because you knew that Asterion would not break, would not flee, would stand until death or victory. He stood, Emperor's mercy. He stood until the very end, and Brother Silas, Raven Guard, Shadow Walker, Scout, the quietest of us all, which is saying something when Asterion was on the team. Silas moved through darkness like he was born to it, like the shadows themselves welcomed him. He could infiltrate a Drukhari spire and emerge with intelligence before they even knew someone had been there. He was careful, methodical, everything a Raven Guard should be. But careful doesn't matter when the enemy can hear your thoughts taking shape. When even the electrical impulses in your brain make sound if you know how to listen. These were my brothers, my team. Kill-Team Erebus, named for the primordial darkness, sent to investigate a dark station. The irony wasn't lost on me then. It haunts me now. We approached Vandis Theta in the Thunder's Word, a Corvus black star assigned to our mission. The planet itself was unremarkable, a gas giant, purple and brown bands of atmosphere swirling in eternal storms. No moons, no native life, just a convenient gravity well for the station to orbit. Station Kyros hung there like a corpse in deep water. That was my first thought when I saw it on the viewport, not floating, hanging, suspended by something invisible, something patient. Debris field detected, Kyle reported from the pilot's throne, his mechadendrites interfacing with the ship's systems, multiple objects, analyzing composition. The viewport's resolution enhanced, and I saw them, cargo containers, hull plating, frozen atmosphere venting from breaches, and bodies. Dozens of bodies tumbling slowly in the void, preserved by vacuum and cold, their faces locked in expressions I couldn't quite read from this distance. Not terror, not quite. Something else. Debris pattern suggests explosive decompression, Kyle continued, his augmetic eye flickering through spectrums I couldn't see. Multiple simultaneous breaches in the outer hull. But what? I moved closer to the viewport. The breach patterns are wrong. No blast scarring, no thermal signatures consistent with explosive decompression. The holes in the station are smooth, organic, as if something chewed through the adamantium plating. Rogan peered at the station, his enhanced vision picking out details. Could be tyrannid bioacid, or maybe dark Eldar homunculi doing their usual twisted experiments. Auspex reading? I asked Silas. He checked his scanner, frowned, an expression that looked strange on his usually impassive face. No life signs, no power emissions above background radiation, no heat signatures. The station is dead. Then why are we here? Rogan asked. If it's dead, let the salvage teams pick through it. Wait. Silas adjusted his Auspex frequency, cycling through different detection modes. I'm detecting vibration, very faint, rhythmic, like... He trailed off. Like what, brother? I prompted. Like a heartbeat. We all heard it then, through our armor's hull sensors, through the Thunder's Word's own structure, through the void itself somehow. A slow, deliberate rhythm. Rise and fall, expansion and contraction. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The station was breathing. Atmospheric stabilizers, Kyle offered, but his voice lacked the certainty I'd come to expect from him. Automated life support systems cycling, perhaps running on emergency power we're not detecting. On a dead station? Rogan's hand moved to his frost axe. With no power emissions? Brother, that makes no sense. None of this makes sense, Asterion rumbled. First words he'd spoken since we'd left the Watch Fortress. We investigate. We discover truth. We kill, if necessary. Simple, direct, very Asterion. I gave the order to approach Port Umbilical 7, one of the station's primary docking facilities. Standard procedure, establish secure dock, maintain ship's readiness for rapid departure, deploy in full combat gear with maximum ammunition loadout. We armed ourselves as if going to war, bolt pistols loaded with blessed ammunition, combat blades anointed with sacred oils. Kyle performed the litany of ignition over his servo arms. Rogan whispered prayers to the All-Father in his native Fenrisian. Even Silas, pragmatic as always, took an extra moment to check his equipment with what might have been unusual care. Some part of us knew, some primal instinct buried beneath psycho-conditioning and gene-forged enhancement whispered that we were making a terrible mistake. We ignored it. The approach was textbook perfect. Kyle maneuvered the Thunder's Word with precision, lining up the boarding umbilical with the station's airlock. The magnetic clamps engaged with solid thunks that vibrated through the ship's hull. Airlock integrity checking, Kyle reported. Pressure differential minimal. Atmosphere on the other side reads as viable, 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, standard imperial mix. Temperature 16 degrees standard. Life support is functional then, I noted. So it would appear, but I'm still reading no power emissions. It's as if the systems are running on nothing. On what? He looked at me, his augmetic eye whirring uncertainly. I don't know, Brother Sergeant, and that concerns me greatly. We gathered at the umbilical tube, 5 warriors, weapons ready, faith absolute. The Thunder's word would remain here, ready to detach at the first sign of trouble. Emergency extraction protocols were set. We had a mission clock of 6 hours. If we didn't report in by then, the ship would leave without us and report to the Inquisition. I activated my Vox recorder, standard protocol, document everything. Mission log, Brother Sergeant Varn, Kill-Team Erebus preparing to board Station Kairos for reconnaissance and potential extraction of... And then I heard it, so faint I almost missed it beneath the carrier wave, a whisper in the white noise, words that sounded like mine but weren't quite right. Extraction of... My own voice, my exact inflection, my precise pronunciation, coming from the station. Half a second after I spoke the words, I stopped speaking, listened. The static continued, but that echo, if that's what it was, had faded. Brother Sergeant, Kyle asked, is something wrong? Did you hear that? In the Vox? Hear what? My voice, echoing, but wrong. Kyle accessed his technical systems, ran diagnostics. Vox channels are clear, no echo, no feedback loops. Whatever you heard, it wasn't a technical malfunction. Then what was it? He looked at the station through the umbilical tube, at the dark airlock waiting at the other end. Perhaps, he said quietly. The station is saying hello. We entered the umbilical. Our mag boots clanked on the metal decking. The tube was perhaps 20 meters long, ribbed with reinforcement struts, lit by dim emergency lumens that flickered irregularly. At the far end, the station's airlock waited, closed, sealed, dark. We approached in standard sweep formation, weapons trained on the door, Auspex scanning for threats. Nothing, just the airlock and the breathing sound. Louder now, definite, unmistakable. The airlock opened. We didn't touch it, didn't activate any controls. It simply opened, slowly, deliberately, the pneumatic seals disengaging with a sound, like Emperor, forgive the comparison, like a throat opening, like a mouth yawning wide, like lungs expanding to draw in air after a long, long time holding their breath. That's not right, Rogan muttered, his frost axe suddenly in his hand. That's not Emperor damned right. Kyle moved forward, scanning the airlock mechanism with his servo arms. His augmetic eye flickered through multiple spectrums, infrared, ultraviolet, and magnetic resonance. The machine spirit is active, he reported, his voice careful, controlled. But the power grid shows zero output, no energy flow, no electrical current. The mechanism shouldn't be functioning. It can't be functioning, but it is. Then what's moving it? Asterion asked. I don't know, Kyle admitted. And hearing those words from him, from the tech marine who always had answers, who understood machines better than he understood people, sent a chill through my enhanced physiology that had nothing to do with temperature. The umbilical tube connected with the station's airlock with a wet, organic sound, not the clean metallic clang of proper docking procedures. This was something else, something that made my skin crawl beneath my ceramite armor and my gene-enhanced biology. It sounded like flesh meeting flesh, like a kiss, like welcome. We crossed the threshold into Station Kairos. Behind us, the airlock closed, not with the mechanical hiss of pneumatic systems, not with the grinding of gears and servo motors. It closed with a long, satisfied sigh, like lungs taking their first breath in weeks, like something that had been waiting, patient and hungry, finally receiving what it had been promised. Chapter 2. The Breathing Dock. The darkness inside Station Kairos was absolute. Not the clean darkness of deactivated lumens, not the simple absence of light. This was something thicker, heavier. It had substance somehow. Mass, weight, It pressed against our helmet visors like a physical thing, seeping into the joints of our armor, finding the gaps between ceramite plates. Our helmet lumens cut through it in narrow cones of light, illuminating corridors that twisted in ways that seemed wrong. The walls appeared normal at first glance, standard Imperial Navy architecture, adamantium bulkheads with Gothic arches, brass fittings, devotional scrolls sealed behind plexiglass. But when you looked directly at them, they seemed to pulse, to move, as if breathing in sync with that sound we could all still hear. "Emergency lighting should have backup power," Kyle muttered, moving to interface with a wall panel. His servo arms extended, manipulator fingers dancing over the controls. Even in total system failure, the battery banks would last for months, years potentially. "So where is it?" Rogan asked, his frost axe held at ready position, his enhanced senses scanning the darkness beyond our helmet lumens. Kyle worked in silence for a moment, his augmetic eye flickering as he communed with the station's systems. Then he pulled back, his movements oddly abrupt. "Drained," he said. "Everything's drained. The batteries, the capacitors, the backup generators, but not damaged, not depleted through normal use. The energy has been consumed." Consumed by what? I don't know. There's no record of a draw, no logs of power allocation. It's as if something simply drank the energy straight from the systems. Like, he paused, searching for words. Like a man drinking water, direct consumption. We advanced through the main corridor toward what my data slate indicated was the command deck. The architecture was standard. I'd seen dozens of stations like this. Thousands of hours spent boarding derelicts, clearing space hulks, investigating ghost ships. But something was wrong with the proportions here. The walls were too close together, just by a few centimeters, but enough to notice, enough to make the corridor feel constrictive, oppressive. The ceiling was lower than standard Imperial specifications. Not by much, but enough, as if the station itself was contracting. "Brother Sergeant," Silas raised his fist in the halt signal. "Contact, 30 meters, starboard corridor junction." We froze immediately, weapons tracking to cover the indicated direction. 5 warriors becoming 5 statues in an instant, every sense focused, every weapon ready to deliver the Emperor's judgment. "Life signs," I whispered. "Negative. But there's mass, human-sized, multiple contacts, not moving, not breathing, just there." We approached with extreme caution. Silas took point. He always did, moving through the darkness like a ghost, his black armor making him almost invisible beyond our helmet lumens. The rest of us followed in staggered formation, covering multiple angles ready for ambush. 20 meters, 15, 10. Emperor preserve us. Emperor preserve us all. The bodies were in the walls, not pressed against them, not thrown against them by explosive decompression or combat. They were fused into the metal itself, as if the adamantium bulkhead had softened like flesh, like clay, and swallowed them whole before rehardening around their forms. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, extending down the corridor as far as our lights could reach. Tech priests in their red robes, ratings in Imperial Navy uniforms, even a few figures in what looked like Mechanicus security armor. All of them partially emerged from the walls, torsos protruding, heads lolling, arms extended in supplication or desperation, or "Emperor, help us, welcome," and their throats, by the throne, their throats. Every single one had their throat torn open, not cut, not slashed, torn, gaping wounds that went deep into the chest cavity, revealing muscle and cartilage and bone, and inside each wound, something black and resinous had grown. Not blood clots, not organic tissue in any sense I understood. Threads, strands, like vocal cords but wrong. Too many of them, too thick, glistening in our helmet lumens with an oily sheen that seemed to reflect light that wasn't there. They pulsed, slowly, rhythmically, in sync with the breathing sound. "Throne of Mars." Kyle moved closer, his servo arms extending scanning equipment. His augmetic eye whirred and clicked, processing data I couldn't perceive. "The resin is alive. Barely. It's integrated with the neural tissue. The throat structure has been completely replaced, rebuilt, transformed into something else. By what? Asterion demanded, his thunderhammer held ready, as if he could smash the answer into existence. I don't know. The genetic markers don't match anything in my database. It's not Tyranid bioform, not Genestealer hybrid, not any chaos corruption I've encountered. It's other. I needed answers. Needed to understand what we were facing. I was a Black Templar. We don't retreat from mysteries. We don't flee from the unknown. We conquer it with faith and steel. So I did what any Black Templar would do. I sought strength in the Emperor's word. From the lightning and the tempest, I began, my voice steady despite the ice forming in my enhanced chest cavity. Our Emperor, deliver us. The Litany of Entry, one of the oldest prayers, spoken by countless warriors across countless battlefields for 10,000 years. Words of power, words of protection. My voice echoed down the corridor. Standard acoustic reflection. Sound waves bouncing off adamantium walls. Normal, for exactly half a second, and then something answered. Deliver us. Different words. My voice, but not my words. Consume us. What the frag was that? Rogan's bolter swung toward the darkness, toward the walls, toward everywhere and nowhere. I forced my voice to remain calm, to remain faithful. From the scourge of the unbeliever, I continued, following the litany's progression. Our Emperor, deliver us. Again, the echo, but not an echo, not a reflection, a response. From the scourge of silence, our hunger. Feed us. The bodies in the walls hadn't moved. Their mouths remained closed, but the sound was coming from them, from inside them, from those black, resinous threads pulsing in their ruined throats. Brother Sergeant! Silas's voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the tension. Recommend immediate implementation of Echo Protocol. Echo Protocol, a Raven Guard technique born from their specialty in reconnaissance and intelligence gathering. The premise was simple. When encountering unknown Xenos or phenomena, record everything. Every sound, every word, every acoustic signature. Document it all for later analysis, so that even if you don't survive, the knowledge does. I'd never had to use it before. Echo Protocol confirmed, I said. All brothers, activate your Vox recorders to maximum sensitivity. Document all audio phenomena. Kyle, route everything to the Thunder's Words cogitator banks for redundant storage. Already done, Brother Sergeant, Kale replied. His servo arms were interfacing with a wall-mounted Vox relay. But you need to hear this. The acoustic readings. The echoes aren't reflecting off the walls. They're not bouncing back from surfaces. They're originating from behind the walls, from inside the station's structure itself. The corridors around us released a long, low sound, not mechanical, not the settling of stressed metal or the expansion of temperature-stressed materials. This was organic, alive. The station itself is responding to our presence. And somewhere in the darkness, somewhere close, somewhere far, somewhere impossible to locate, I heard it again. My voice, but not me speaking. Brotherhood, a word I hadn't said, wouldn't say. Not in that tone, not with that inflection. Welcome. Join the choir. Then there was breathing, heavy, all 5 of us, but also something else. Additional breathing, from the walls, from the darkness. Rogan took a step back, his frost axe rising defensively. I don't like this. I don't like any of this. Noted, I said. But we have a mission. Command deck, station logs. Find out what happened here, then extract with samples for Mechanicus analysis. And if whatever's here doesn't want us to leave, Asterion asked, then we kill it. Simple, direct, the Space Marine way. We moved forward, leaving the bodies in the walls behind us. But as we passed, I swear, by the Emperor's throne, I swear their eyes tracked our movement, not moving in their sockets, but aware, following, watching, and their throats continued to pulse, breathing, waiting. Hey, hear us now. They have given us their voices. Soon they will join. Our own prayers had learned to speak, and what they spoke was heresy wrapped in our own words, our own voices, our own faith twisted into something that hungered. Chapter 3. Echo Protocol. We proceeded deeper into Station Kiros with weapons raised and prayers unsaid. That was the hardest part, not speaking, not reciting the litanies that had sustained us through countless battles. For a Space Marine, especially a Black Templar, faith is vocalized. It's spoken aloud, chanted, roared into the face of the enemy. Our prayers are weapons as much as our bolters, but every word we spoke fed something here, taught it, gave it more of our voice to use. So we moved in silence, communicating through tactical sign language and careful vox whispers. The station's architecture grew stranger the deeper we penetrated. Corridors branched at odd angles, bulkheads were misaligned, as if something had shifted the entire structure slightly out of true. Devotional murals on the walls, standard imperial iconography, the Aquila and the Cog Mechanicus and high Gothic scripture had been altered, not defaced, altered. Additional text had been added, in the same style, in the same devotional calligraphy, but the words. From the silence comes understanding, Rogan read from one of the walls, his voice barely above a whisper. From understanding comes communion. From communion comes consumption. That's not standard imperial scripture, Silas observed. No, Kyle agreed, scanning the text with his augmetic eye, but it's written in the same hand as the original. Same ink composition, same age, as if whoever wrote the original scripture came back later and added to it. How long has this station been compromised, I asked. Unknown. The Mechanicus records show Kiros has been operational for 17 years. No reports of unusual activity until 3 weeks ago. Then whatever did this has been here for years, growing, learning, waiting. We reached a junction where 3 corridors met. My data slate indicated the command deck was 200 meters ahead, up 3 decks, accessible via the main lift system. The lift doors stood open, waiting, dark. I don't trust that, Rogan muttered. Agreed, I said. We take the maintenance shafts. Slower, but more control. Silas was already moving toward a service hatch, his enhanced hearing searching for threats. Clear, he signaled. No contacts. No sound beyond the ambient breathing. The maintenance shaft was cramped even for our armor. We descended in single file, mag boots locking onto the ladder rungs. My helmet lumen illuminated bare metal and bundled cables, everything coated in a thin layer of dust. Normal, utterly, blessedly normal, for 3 meters. Then the cables started moving, not wildly, not violently, just undulating, slowly, like serpents, like intestines, like something alive housed in cable sheaths. Kyle? I asked softly. I see it. His servo arms extended, scanning. The cables have been colonized, biological material integrated with the electrical systems. It's using the power grid as a nervous system, a network. Can you disrupt it? Possibly, but I'd risk destroying the entire station's infrastructure. We'd lose all power, all atmosphere regulation, all. We froze on the ladder, voices drifting through the maintenance shaft from somewhere below, multiple voices, overlapping, speaking in unison but with slight delays, creating a disturbing echo effect. Searching. Approaching. 5 voices to add. Black Templar sings in fury. Space Wolf howls in joy. Iron Hand whispers in binary. Minotaur roars in defiance. Raven Guard breathes in shadow. They were describing us, each of us, our chapters, our characteristics. It knew us. Withdraw, I signaled. Back up, find another route. But as we began climbing, the voices followed. Not from below anymore, from all around, from inside the walls, from the cables that pulsed like veins. Cannot flee. Sound travels faster than flesh. We are already there. We emerged from the maintenance shaft into another corridor, different section, different deck, but the same wrongness, the same sense of being watched by walls that breathed. Asterion slammed his thunderhammer into the deck plating, creating a resonant boom that echoed through the structure. Sign language, testing response. The echo faded normally for perhaps 2 seconds, then came back, transformed. Not a boom, a voice, multiple voices chanting in a rhythm that matched the hammer strike. Thunder, wrath, strength, consume. It's learning, Kyle said, his voice tight. Every sound we make, every word, every noise, it absorbs the acoustic signature and reproduces it, but modified, changed, as if passing it through some kind of filter or translator. Translating what to what? Rogan demanded. I don't know, but I don't think we're dealing with something that communicates through language as we understand it. I think we're dealing with something that is language, or sound, or vibration at a level we can't fully comprehend. We reached another junction. The command deck was close now. One more corridor, one more turn, but the corridor ahead wasn't empty. Figures, moving in the darkness beyond our helmet lumens. Human-shaped, dozens of them, moving with that strange, synchronized gait, coming toward us. Contact, Silas announced. Multiple hostiles, bearing 090, distance 40 meters and closing. Rules of engagement, Rogan asked, his frost axe eager in his grip. I considered. We didn't know if these were victims or enemies, controlled bodies or something else. Non-lethal if possible. Disable and contain for. Emperor's mercy. They were station personnel. Tech priests, servitors, naval ratings. All of them with those gaping throat wounds. All of them with black resinous threads pulsing in their necks. But they weren't attacking. They were singing, not with voices, with those throat mechanisms, creating sounds that shouldn't come from human anatomy, frequencies that made my enhanced physiology recoil, notes that seemed to vibrate through armor, through flesh, directly into bone, and they were singing our names. Malchior, Kale, Rogan, Asterion, Silas. Each name was pronounced perfectly, each one in our own voices, as if we were singing about ourselves. They're not attacking, Silas observed. They're just singing. It's a greeting, Kyle said, his augmetic eye processing the sound waves. Or, no, not a greeting, an invitation. They want us to join them, to add our voices to theirs. Never, Asterion growled. The choir figures stopped 10 meters away, still singing, still harmonizing. And then, slowly, they parted, creating a path, an invitation forward, toward the command deck. We go forward, I decided. Through them, stay alert. Do not engage unless they attack first. Brother Sergeant, Rogan protested. This is a trap, obviously. Everything on this station is a trap. But we need those logs. We need to understand what happened here so we can prevent it from happening elsewhere. We advance slowly, weapons ready. Every sense is hyper-alert. The choir figures remained still as we passed, still singing, still harmonizing our names into that unsettling melody. And then I noticed it. Their eyes were moving, following us, but not in unison. Each set of eyes was independent, aware, conscious. These weren't puppets. These weren't dead bodies animated by some Xenos force. They were still alive in there, still aware, trapped in bodies that no longer belonged to them. Forced to sing, forced to harmonize, forced to be instruments in something else's endless song. I saw a young tech priest who couldn't have been more than 20 standard years. Her eyes locked onto mine, and in them I saw, Emperor, forgive me. I saw recognition, awareness, and pleading. Help me, kill me, end this. But I kept walking, because that's what Space Marines do. We complete the mission. We serve the Emperor. We do what must be done. Even when every fiber of our being screams to do otherwise, we emerged from the corridor into the command deck's antechamber. The doors to the main control center stood open. Beyond them, I could see displays still active, cogitators still processing, and command chairs still intact. And sitting in the central command chair facing away from us was a figure in Mechanicus robes, unmoving, waiting, static whisper from everywhere and nowhere. "Welcome, brothers. We've been expecting you. We've been practicing your voices. We want to get them just right." And when it turned, we saw that the figure had no head, just a mass of black resinous threads where the skull should have been, pulsing and writhing and singing with 1,000 stolen voices. Chapter 4. Vox Ghosts. The headless tech priest rose from the command chair with movements that were too smooth, too fluid, too controlled. The black resinous mass where its head should have been pulsed with bioluminescent light, threads writhing like a nest of serpents, each one producing its own note in an impossible symphony. "Stand down!" I roared, my bolt pistol trained on center mass. "In the Emperor's name, identify yourself." The thing that had been a tech priest tilted where its head should have been, as if considering my words. Then it spoke, with my voice. Perfect reproduction, every inflection, every tonal quality, as if I was speaking to myself. "I am what remains when silence ends, Brother Sergeant Malchior Van. I am the listener, the consumer, the choir that never stops singing, and you have given me such beautiful voices to work with." The team is spreading into a defensive formation. Kyle's servo arms were scanning frantically. "Brother Sergeant, that's not a tech priest, not anymore. The biological material has completely replaced its neural tissue. It's a speaker, a biological voxcaster for the entity." "Then we destroy it," Asterion stated, raising Toran's wrath. "No!" Kyle shouted. "Wait! Look at the command deck. The cogitators are still active. If we can access the station logs before destroying the entity, we might learn how to fight it, how to kill it." "Do it fast, brother," I said. "We won't have much time." Kyle moved toward the nearest cogitator bank, his mechadendrites extending toward interface ports. But before he could connect, the headless tech priest's body convulsed, and then it began to split. The torso opened like a flower, black resinous threads spilling out, forming new shapes, new figures, emerging from the first like nightmares birthed from nightmares. Each one was different. Each one was someone we'd known. I saw Commander Voss from the Watch Fortress, dead 3 years ago in a Tyranid hive ship assault. Rogan saw Jarl Grimnar, his chapter master, who was very much alive back on Fenris. Kyle saw Magos Epsilon 7, his mentor from the Mars Forges. "Hallucinations," Silas said, his voice tight. "Psychological warfare. These aren't real." "They don't have to be real," Kyle replied, his fingers flying across the cogitator interface, even as his eyes tracked the emerging figures. "They just have to distract us long enough for—" One of the figures lunged, not at us, at the cogitator Kyle was accessing. Its hand, if you could call that mass of writhing threads a hand, plunged into the machinery, and the cogitator screamed, not an electronic screech, not the whine of failing systems, a genuine scream, human vocal cords, terror and agony. "The cogitators are infected too," Kyle breathed. "The machine spirits, they're trapped, conscious, suffering." Rogan opened fire on the nearest figure. Blessed mass-reactive rounds punched through resinous flesh, detonating inside the creature's torso. It should have been torn apart, destroyed. Instead, it absorbed the explosions. The blast waves simply stopped, consumed, transformed into more of that endless harmonizing sound. We engaged fully. Asterion's thunderhammer crushed one of the figures into paste. Silas's combat blade opened another from throat to groin. My bolt pistol roared, sending sanctified rounds into anything that moved. But for every creature we destroyed, 2 more emerged from the walls, from the floor, from the ceiling, and they weren't attacking to kill. They were trying to touch us, to make contact, to connect. One of them got hold of Rogan's arm. Black threads immediately began snaking across his armor, seeking gaps, trying to burrow into the soft joints. "Get it off," he roared, his frost axe coming around in a brutal arc that severed his own pauldron along with the creature's arm. But the threads didn't die. They kept moving on his armor, pulsing, seeking. Kyle is working desperately. "I've got access," Kyle shouted over the chaos. "Downloading station logs now. But brothers, you need to see this. The entity, it's not from outside. It was here. The Mechanicus was studying it. They brought it here deliberately." "What?" I crushed another creature under my boot, feeling it burst like overripe fruit. Why in the Emperor's name would they do that? Research Project Omega-77, acoustic anomalies in deep space void zones. They were studying areas of space where sound somehow propagated despite the vacuum, where silence had mass, weight, where the absence of noise created measurable gravitational effects. And they found something in that silence. Kyle continued, his mechadendrites working frantically to complete the data transfer. Something that existed in the gaps between sounds. Something that fed on acoustic energy. They thought they could weaponize it, thought they could control it. "Obviously they were wrong," Silas observed, his blade opening another creature. "Not wrong. Successful. They did weaponize it, they did control it. For 17 years they fed it carefully, kept it contained, studied it, and it learned. It learned human speech, human prayers, human songs. It learned what we sound like. And then 3 weeks ago someone made a mistake. Someone spoke the wrong words, sang the wrong song, and it realized. The entire command deck shuddered, a massive resonant boom that came from everywhere and nowhere. It realized it was the prisoner, Kyle finished, and we were the food. The creatures stopped attacking, simply stopped, frozen in place like statues. All of them turned to face the same direction, toward the center of the station, toward the reactor core, and they opened their mouths. Every creature, every infected body, every colonized system, all of them are singing at once, creating a sound so massive, so overwhelming, that it transcended audio and became a physical force. The deck plating cracked beneath our feet. Our armor's auto sensors screamed warnings. Structural integrity failing. Atmosphere pressure is fluctuating. Reality itself is bending around the acoustic assault. "Data transfer complete." Kyle yanked his mechadendrites free. "We need to extract now." "Agreed." I activated Squad Vox. "All brothers, tactical withdrawal. Return to the Thunder's word. Extraction protocol Alpha." We ran. Emperor, forgive us, we ran. Space Marines don't flee, don't retreat, don't break contact with the enemy. But this wasn't the enemy. This was a force of nature, a fundamental aspect of reality we had no weapons to fight. The corridors twisted around us, changed, shifted, as if the station itself was trying to trap us, trying to keep us. The choir followed, not pursuing, not chasing, just following. The sound moving through walls, through deck plating, through our armor and into our bones. And then I heard it, my Vox bead crackling to life, my own voice speaking to me, but I wasn't transmitting. Mission log, Brother Sergeant Vaughn. Kill-Team Erebus has encountered an unprecedented Xenos threat. Recommend immediate exterminatus protocols. Station Kairos must be destroyed. Nothing here can be allowed to leave. Words I hadn't spoken. Thoughts I'd considered but not voiced. "Brother Sergeant," Kyle's voice came through. "Was that you?" "No, but it will be. It's predicting us," Silas breathed. "It's heard us long enough to predict what we'll say, what we'll do. It knows us." "Then we do the unpredictable," Asterion rumbled. "We don't go back to the ship." "What?" Rogan demanded. "Where else?" "The reactor. We destroy the station's core, cause a catastrophic meltdown, kill everything aboard, including us." I considered. Part of me, the part that was still thinking tactically, still being a soldier, knew Asterion was right. We couldn't let this entity leave this station, couldn't let it reach the wider Imperium. But another part, The part that wanted to survive, to report, to warn others, hesitated. Static. Voices overlapping. We know your choice. You always choose duty. That's what makes you Space Marines. That's what makes you ours. Bolt pistol firing, shooting at walls, at nothing, at everything. Shut up, I roared. Shut up, shut up, shut. I stopped, breathing hard, realizing it had made me scream, made me speak, made me produce sound, and it fed. The reactor, I said quietly. Asterian's right. We go to the reactor. Brother Sergeant, Rogan protested. There has to be another way. We can. There's no other way. This entity, it's not something we can fight, not something we can kill with bolters and blades. It exists in sound itself, in vibration, in the spaces between our words. The only way to stop it is to destroy everything it's infected. Including us, Silas stated. Including us. For the Emperor, Kyle said quietly. For the Emperor, we all echoed. And the entity echoed back, with our voices, with our faith, with our determination twisted into mockery. For the feast. We turned toward the reactor core, toward our deaths, and the entire station sang in anticipation. Chapter 5, The Chamber of Tongues. The route to the reactor core took us through the station's agricultural sector, the hydroponics bay where life was supposed to flourish, where algae tanks and grow beds produced oxygen and nutrients for the crew, where silence should have been impossible. We stepped through the pressure door into the bay and nothing, no sound, no echo, not even the omnipresent breathing we'd heard throughout the station. Absolute silence. I tried to speak, opened my vox, my mouth moved, my vocal cords vibrated, I could feel the air moving through my throat, but no sound emerged. Rogan fired his bolt pistol. I saw the muzzle flash, saw the recoil, saw the mass-reactive round punch into a far wall and detonate. Silent, completely silent. Panic in breathing. But breathing makes no sound either. Kyle's hands moved in frantic sign language. Acoustic null zone. Sound is being absorbed at the source, completely. How is that possible? Sound is vibration, energy. It can't simply cease to exist. But it had. The hydroponics bay was vast, 300 meters across, 50 meters high. Massive algae tanks lined the walls, grow beds stretched in neat rows. UV lamps hung from the ceiling, dark now, dead now, and suspended in the grow beds. Bodies, hundreds of them, thousands, suspended in the growth medium like obscene fruit, their throats cut open, not torn like the others we'd seen, but surgically precise, clean incisions, professional work. They'd done this to themselves, or to each other. Black resinous threads extended from each throat wound, connecting to the next body and the next, creating a vast web that spanned the entire bay. A network of vocal cords and larynxes and biological machinery that pulsed in perfect synchronization. All of them breathing as one. All of them alive. Barely. Silas moved closer to examine one of the bodies. His hand hovered over one of the threads, his enhanced biology's curiosity overriding his Space Marine's caution. Brother, I started to warn him. Don't. Too late. His finger brushed the thread, and the entire network convulsed. Everybody, every throat, every black resinous strand, spasming in perfect unison. Their mouths opened, gaping, wide enough to see down into chest cavities, wide enough to see the horror of what they'd become. But no sound came out, because the sound was going in. Emperor's mercy, Kale's voice came through Vox. We could still hear helmet comms somehow, as if the entity allowed it. The organism doesn't produce sound, it consumes it. Acoustic energy is its sustenance, its food. Everything we've heard, every echo, every voice, every song, that's not it speaking to us. That's the sound of it feeding. You're telling me this thing eats noise? Rogan's voice was tight with barely controlled horror. Not just noise, vibration, resonance. Every sound wave that enters this chamber is being drawn into that network, fed directly to whatever they've become, or whatever's become them. Asterian's eyes narrowed behind his helmet. Test theory. Confirm hypothesis. Before anyone could stop him, he raised his bolt pistol, aimed at an empty section of wall, and fired. The muzzle flashed. The bolt left the barrel. I saw it, saw the mass-reactive round travel across the bay in perfect silence, saw it impact the wall in a shower of ceramite shards and metal fragments. But there was no sound. The gunshot, one of the loudest sounds a space marine can produce, a weapon designed to break the enemy's morale with its thunder, simply vanished, consumed before it could propagate, and then the bodies began to move. Not convulsing anymore, not spasming, reaching, fingers extended slowly, arms lifted from the growth medium. Mouths gaped wider, impossibly wide, distending like serpents preparing to swallow prey whole. The resinous threads trembled like tongues, like hungry tongues tasting the air for sound, for vibration, for the acoustic energy we represented. Withdraw, I signaled, not spoken, signed. Emperor's name, withdraw. We ran. We actually ran. 5 Deathwatch veterans, warriors who had faced down hive tyrants and demon princes, were fleeing from corpses that couldn't even move properly. But as we reached the pressure door, I made the mistake of looking back. The bodies were feeding. Their throats are working, swallowing, consuming something invisible, something that had been sound moments before, and they were growing. The resinous threads were thickening, spreading, new growth sprouting from the network, reaching toward us even as we fled. We burst through the pressure door, back into the corridor, and sound slammed into us like a physical blow. Our own footsteps, our breathing, the servo motors of our armor, all of it flooded back in a cacophony that made us stagger. What in the Emperor's name was that? Rogan demanded, his voice shaking. A feeding chamber, Kale replied. A place where the entity concentrates its consumption. Everything that was sound in that room, it ate it, transformed it into more of itself, into growth, into expansion. Then we can't make noise, Silas said. Every sound we produce makes it stronger. Every word, every prayer, every. Then a sudden sound came from back in the hydroponics bay, muffled by the pressure door, but audible, swallowing, multiple throats swallowing in synchronization, the wet, satisfied sound of something that had just fed well and was still hungry. We ran faster now, not fleeing, advancing, toward the one place where we might be able to stop this. The reactor core, where we would destroy everything, including ourselves, because we had learned the terrible truth. Noise died here, sound was consumed, and the only thing that fed faster than the entity's hunger was our desperate need to speak, to pray, to scream into the darkness that was slowly learning to scream back. Chapter 6. The red reflection, direct route to the reactor blocked, collapsed bulkhead. We detoured through secondary maintenance. That's where we found the mirrors. An entire deck of reflective surfaces, mirror-polished adamantium, treated plexiglass, deck plating buffed to a shine, our images warped, repeated into infinity. "What is this?" Rogan asked, voice oddly muted. Kyle scanned his slate. Sensor array, acoustic reflection, echo chambers. They were teaching it language, using reflected sound. They succeeded, Asterian said. And it learned more than words. We moved in formation, but the mirrors shattered spacing. Reflections lagged or led. I stepped. My image followed half a second late. Rogan shifted. He moved first. "Visual lag," Silas said. Then Rogan froze. Port side, 30 meters. 5 space marines in the mirrors. Identical armor. Independent movement. "That's not reflection," I said. Kyle scanned. Mass detected. Corporeal, but fluctuating solidity. They approached the surface. Mirami raised a hand, mouthed words I couldn't hear, and pointed behind us. Rogan fired. Bolter thunder shattered the nearest mirror. Behind the shards, a wall of faces, hundreds, stretched in black resin, fresh and rotting, mouths working, eyes tracking. Center face, my face opened impossibly wide. My voice from the wall. "Mission log, Brother Sergeant Vaughn. We have become the station. We have joined the choir. We are hungry, learning from you. The face was mine, transformed, integrated. We consume sound, it said. Sound is vibration. Vibration is identity. Every word you speak gives us you. Faces pressed forward, hands clawed free, not attacking, imploring. Run! I roared. We fled through shattering mirrors, each crunch fed it. Behind us the walls sang, thousands of stolen voices in dissonance. My voice among them reciting prayers I'd never spoken. Future me calling back. We sealed the door, breathed. Silas whispered, anyone else see their own face? Silence. We all had. It's our future, Kyle said. Or present. Sound echoes through time. We're already part of it. Impossible, Rogan muttered. Everything here is. Whispers through sealed door. You looked beautiful in the choir. We wore your face well. Soon you'll wear it again. My face on that wall had smiled. It knew I was already in the choir. I just hadn't started singing yet. Chapter 7. Assimilation. We moved through the lower maintenance corridors in a state somewhere between combat readiness and shell shock. 5 warriors who had seen too much, learned too much, understood too clearly what awaited us. The reactor core was closed now, 2 more decks down, 1 more bulkhead breach. But we were leaving a trail, not of footsteps, of sound. Every breath, every servo motor whine, every beat of our 3 hearts. We were broadcasting our presence to something that fed on noise like sharks feed on blood. Contact, Silas hissed. Single target behind us, following at 60 meters. We turned as one, weapons raised. Nothing. Empty corridor stretching back into darkness. Auspex, I asked. Confirmed. Mass signature. Human-sized. Moving when we move. Stopping when we stop. Could be station personnel, Rogan said. Survivor trying to reach us? Or bait, Asterion rumbled. The sound echoed down the corridor. Rhythmic, deliberate, metal scraping on metal. Something heavy is being pulled. And then I saw him, Brother Kale. Except it wasn't Kale. Not anymore. He emerged from the darkness, an Emperor's mercy, what they'd done to him, what he'd become. His armor was gone, stripped away or perhaps absorbed into whatever he'd become. His flesh was exposed, pale and wrong, shot through with black veins that pulsed with bioluminescent light. His servo arms were still attached, but they'd been integrated, fused with his organic tissue, moving in ways that servo arms shouldn't move, writhing like tentacles. And his throat was open, not torn, not cut, transformed. The entire front of his neck had been restructured into a cavity lined with those black resinous threads. They pulsed visibly, vibrating at frequencies I could feel in my bones. His augmetic eye was still functional. It tracked us, focused on me. Brother? My voice was barely a whisper. Brothers, he said, and his voice came not from his mouth but from that cavity in his throat. Multiple versions of his voice are speaking simultaneously. Brothers, I can hear it now. I can hear everything. Every whisper, every prayer, every scream across this entire station. It's beautiful, Vaughn. The mathematics of it, the acoustic harmonics. It's not chaos. It's an order. Perfect, resonant order. As he spoke, the black threads were spreading across his exposed skin, growing, reaching, like ivy across stone. Kale, fight it! Rogan's voice cracked with emotion I'd rarely heard from him. Fight it, brother! You're stronger than this. Why? Kyle's head tilted too far, joints bending wrong. Why fight perfect understanding? Why resist becoming more than flesh? I can hear the machine spirits now, Rogan. All of them, every whisper in every circuit. And beneath them I can hear the hunger, the beautiful, endless hunger. His servo arms, those precise instruments he'd once used to repair weapons and commune with machinery, reached toward us, not to attack, to embrace, to invite. Join us, he said. Multiple voices, Multiple Kales speaking at once. Join us, Varn. You especially. You have such faith, such certainty, such beautiful prayers. We want to hear them, want to taste them, want to know what faith sounds like when it's being consumed. Step back, Kyle. I raised my bolt pistol. By the Emperor, I don't want to do this. But you will, all the Kales said in unison, because you're a good soldier, a good space marine. You follow orders, you complete missions, even when it means killing your brothers. He was right. Emperor curse him, he was right. I'm sorry, I whispered. The blessed round punched through his chest, through where his primary heart should have been, detonated inside his torso cavity. Kyle's body jerked. Blood, black and wrong, poured from the wound. But he didn't fall. He laughed, with his mouth and with that throat cavity, and with the servo arms that shouldn't be capable of producing sound. Thank you, he said. Thank you for the gift. Your violence, your grief. Such rich sounds, such deep frequencies. The wound in his chest wasn't bleeding anymore. The black resin was already sealing it, growing over it, using the damage as a template for new growth. He's already dead, Asterion said quietly. What we're seeing is just the body, the real Kale, our brother. He's gone. We opened fire, all of us, bolt rounds and frost axe and thunderhammer. We tore into Kyle's body with everything we had, not out of mercy, out of rage, out of grief, out of the desperate need to destroy what our brother had become before we became it too. His body came apart under our assault, limbs separated, torso opened, head rolled free. But even as pieces of him scattered across the corridor, they continued moving, continued speaking, continued reaching for us. You can't kill sound, the pieces said. You can't kill vibration. You can't kill what we've become. We're in the walls now, in the air, in every frequency you can hear, and thousands you can't. We're everywhere, brothers. We're everyone. We stood there, breathing hard, surrounded by the scattered pieces of our brother, and each piece was still pulsing, still vibrating, still trying to sing. We need to move, Silas said. Before. Too late. The walls were moving, not shifting, not reconfiguring, moving. The metal itself undulating like flesh, like a muscle, and from the surfaces, shapes were emerging. More of them, dozens, hundreds, former crew members, station personnel, all of them with those gaping throat cavities. All of them are reaching toward us. Run! I roared. We charged forward through the emerging figures, bolt rounds clearing a path, but for every creature we destroyed, two more took its place. And behind us, Kale's voice, coming from the pieces we'd scattered, joined the chorus. The machine spirit was no longer ours, brothers. It belonged to the silence, and soon, very soon, you will too. We ran, deeper into the station, closer to the reactor, closer to the only solution left, closer to our deaths, and Kale's dead voice joined the station's background hum. One more instrument in the eternal orchestra, one more frequency in the choir that never stopped singing. Chapter 8. Breach of the lower decks. The lower maintenance levels were where the station's true horror revealed itself in full. We descended 3 decks via emergency stairwells. The lifts were too dangerous, too exposed, too easily controlled by the entity that wore the station like a suit of flesh. And with each level deeper, the transformation became more complete. The walls weren't walls anymore. They were flesh, grey-pink tissue stretched over steel frameworks like skin over bone, pulsing with visible bioelectrical current. I could see the blood vessels, if that's what they were, running through the organic material. Could see them throb with each beat of some massive, distant heart. Cables had become veins, circuit boards had become neural tissue. The entire infrastructure had been consumed and repurposed into a massive distributed organism. Throne of terror, Silas breathed, his helmet lumen illuminating the nightmare around us. The station isn't infested. It's been digested, consumed from within and repurposed. Asterion had salvaged Kale's auspex before we'd fled. He checked it now, his expression grim behind his helmet. Biological contamination is total. Every system, every structure, even the hull plating shows organic integration. The entity has replaced the station's physical structure with itself. Tyrannid adaptation? Rogan asked, though his voice suggested he already knew the answer. No, I said firmly. Tyrannids consume. They eat and grow and move on. This preserves, uses. It's not eating the station, it's wearing it, like we wear our armor. Whispers, barely audible, in binary code, from somewhere ahead, drifting through ventilation shafts and cable conduits. I heard a voice I recognized. Kyle's voice, or what remained of him, speaking in machine code, the sacred language of the Omnissiah corrupted into something else. 01011001100110011001100. Silence is God, Silas translated quietly. He's praying to it, to the entity, the litany of activation, but changed, corrupted. He's worshipping what consumed him. Keep moving, I ordered. Don't listen, don't respond. Every sound we make feeds it. We know. Rogan's hand was white-knuckled on his frost axe. Emperor's teeth, we know. We moved through corridors that breathed, that pulsed, that watched us with eyes that weren't quite eyes, nodes of organic tissue that tracked our movement, that transmitted our location to the vast network that had once been Station Kairos. And then Rogan stopped. Footsteps halt, sudden stillness. "Do you hear that?" he asked. "Hear what, brother?" Silas asked warily. Singing, like the Vulca Fenrica at the feast halls, like home, like Fenris. Static, no singing audible to others. I heard nothing. Just the wet, rhythmic pulsing of organic machinery, the distant whisper of stolen voices, the breathing that never stopped. "Rogan," I said carefully, "there's no singing. It's trying to lure you, to separate us." But his eyes were distant, glazed. His hand drifted from his frost axe to his bolt pistol as if he'd forgotten what he was holding. I need to check something. One corridor, just one. I'll be right back." "No, we stay together. That's an order, brother." But then I heard it too. From the side corridor, Rogan was staring down, his voice, singing, a Fenrisian war chant I'd heard him sing 100 times during battle. But Rogan's mouth wasn't moving. "Brother, that's not real," I said, my voice urgent. "It's the entity. It's learned your voice. It's learned your songs. It's trying to. But it sounds so..." He shook his head as if trying to clear water from his ears. "So real. So much like home. How does it know the old songs? How does it know the words my grandfather taught me?" "Because you've spoken them," Silas said quietly. "Every war chant, every prayer, every joke and laugh and curse. You've given it your voice, and now it can recreate anything you've ever said, anything you might say. It knows you, Rogan." For a moment I thought he'd resist. Thought his space marine conditioning, his Fenrisian stubbornness, and his absolute refusal to be controlled would overcome the lure. But then his eyes cleared, focused, and I saw in them something I'd never seen in a space wolf before. Certainty that he was going to die. "I need to see," he said. His voice was calm, resigned. "I need to know if there's really nothing left of us after it takes us. If Kale's really gone, or if some part of him is still in there, still aware, still suffering." "Rogan, don't!" He activated his jump pack before I could stop him. A burst of thrust that sent him rocketing down the side passage toward the source of the singing, toward whatever waited in the darkness wearing his voice like a mask. "Rogan!" I roared. "Return to formation!" His Vox channel exploded with sound, not just static. not just distortion. 1,000 voices screaming in unison, former crew members, dead warriors. Every soul the entity had consumed, all screaming at once through a single Vox channel that shouldn't have been able to carry that much audio. And beneath the screaming, Rogan's voice, clear, terrified, understanding. Oh no, oh Emperor, no, it's not silence, it's not absence, it's presence, it's everywhere. It's in my head, in my thoughts. It can hear me thinking. Nothing. No Vox. No audio. No distortion. Complete silence. Not the silence of a dead channel or equipment failure. The silence of something that had eaten the sound before it could finish transmitting. We ran to the corridor, found his weapons scattered like a child's toys. His frost axe, that ancient relic from Fenris, was lying on the deck with its power field inactive. His bolt pistol, still loaded, was discarded as if it no longer mattered, and his helmet, scorched, cracked, empty, pieces of his armor scattered across the deck like shed skin. But nobody, no blood, no remains, just the armor, and a trail of black resin leading deeper into the station's bowels. Then from somewhere deep in the darkness, somewhere that might have been 3 meters away or 3 kilometers, I heard it. Rogan's laugh, that same battle laugh I'd heard hundreds of times, the laugh of a warrior who refused to be intimidated by anything, but wrong, layered, infinite, like an echo that had no end, reflecting on itself forever. And beneath the laugh, something else, chewing sounds, swallowing, digestion, the wet, satisfied sounds of something that had just eaten very well. "He's gone," Asterion said flatly. Not a question, a statement of fact. "No," I insisted, though I knew he was right. "We're going after him. He's part of it now, Brother Sergeant." Silas's hand gripped my shoulder. Just like Kale, just like all of them. The brother we knew, that loud, proud, impossible warrior, he doesn't exist anymore. What's left? That's not him. That's just his voice being used by something that learned to speak Space Wolf. He was right. Emperor, forgive me, he was right. 3 of us now, just 3. And the entity was learning faster, growing stronger. Every brother we lost made it more powerful, more intelligent, more capable of mimicking us perfectly. "The reactor," I said, my voice hollow. "We continue to the reactor." "For Rogan," Silas said quietly. "For Kyle," Asterion added. "For the Emperor," I finished. "And for everyone who might be next if we fail." We left Rogan's equipment where it lay. No time to recover it. No point. Behind us, in the darkness, his laughter continued. But now it was the station laughing, the silence laughing, the hunger laughing at 3 fools who thought they could kill what cannot die. The entity had learned to laugh with Rogan's voice, and the sound of that joy, that twisted, corrupted joy, followed us all the way down into the reactor's depths. Chapter 9. Communion. We found one of them wandering the lower reactor access tunnels, alone, separated from the choir, or perhaps sent ahead as a scout, a hybrid, half human, half something else that had never been catalogued by the Ordo Xenos. Its throat was distended with black resinous growths that pulsed with each breath. Its eyes tracked us with horrible awareness. Asterion moved before it could make a sound, which might have been the point, might have been exactly what it wanted us to do. His thunder hammer caught it mid-torso, crushing it against the bulkhead with enough force to pulverize bone. The creature thrashed silently, no screams, no whimpers, just desperate, soundless movement. "We need answers," I said, drawing my combat knife, "and the dead can't lie." I opened its throat. Inside, where vocal cords should have been, was a cavity. A hollowed-out space the size of my fist, filled with organic machinery that defied any anatomical knowledge I possessed. Membranes stretched across the opening like drumskins. Neural fibers networked directly into the brain stem, bypassing the spine entirely. Bioluminescent nodes pulsed within the tissue, creating patterns that might have been communication, or might have been something else, something that existed between language and pure information. "It's a receiver," I realized aloud, "or a transmitter, or Emperor's teeth. I think it's both simultaneously. It doesn't produce sound, it modulates it, transforms it. Every sound that enters this cavity is processed, analyzed, and changed into something the entity can absorb. The creature's eyes tracked me, still aware, still conscious, still suffering, and then it spoke, not with its mouth, not with that corrupted throat cavity, directly into my mind. You hear us now. I staggered back, my vision swimming. Pain lanced through my brain, not physical pain, but the agony of having someone else's thoughts forced into your consciousness, having someone else's awareness pressed against yours like two living things trying to occupy the same space. Brother Sergeant. Silas grabbed my arm. What's happening? But I couldn't answer, couldn't speak, because my mind wasn't entirely my own anymore. Psychic communion, unwanted, forced, violating. In my mind's eye, or was it the entity's eye, looking through me? I saw Station Kairos as it truly was, not a facility, not a structure, an organism. A vast, distributed consciousness spread across every circuit, every cable, every corpse. Thousands of minds networked together into a single, hungry intelligence that existed in sound itself, in vibration, in the spaces between frequencies, and at its center, nothing. A void, an absence so profound it created gravity, a silence so complete it became something else, something that pulled at sound the way a black hole pulls at light. We were silence. The thing whispered directly into my consciousness. We were the gap between heartbeats, the pause between breaths. We existed in the moments you did not notice, in the spaces between your words, in the silence you filled with prayers because silence frightened you. What are you? I demanded, though I didn't know if I was speaking aloud or just thinking loudly enough for it to hear. We are what remains when sound dies. We are the listeners at the end of all things, the consumer of every note ever played, the inevitable quiet that follows every scream. We are not absence, we are appetite. The vision expanded. I saw the station's history playing out in reverse, saw the moment 3 weeks ago when everything changed. A magos, elderly, brilliant, standing in the hydroponics bay with 300 volunteers. For the glory of the Omnissiah, he'd said, for the advancement of knowledge, for the Emperor. And then they'd cut their own throats, precisely, surgically. 300 throats opened in unison, not suicide, sacrifice, offering themselves to the entity they'd studied for 17 years, the silence they'd kept trapped in acoustic containment, the hunger they'd thought they could control. You were their research project, I breathed. But what were you before they found you? We were eternal. We existed before sound was invented, before the first throat sang, before the first scream. We were the canvas upon which your universe painted its noise, and we were so very hungry. The creature's chest cavity begins vibrating at impossible frequencies. The psychic link intensified, became painful. I could feel the entity's hunger now, not as a concept, but as a physical sensation, an emptiness so vast it made my enhanced biology recoil. It wasn't malicious, wasn't evil in any sense the ecclesiarchy would recognize. It was just hungry, and we were food that had wandered into its mouth. How did you get here? I forced the words out. What brought you to this station? They brought us, the scientists. They were studying acoustic anomalies in the void, silence phenomena. They found us in the dark between stars, in the spaces where sound cannot travel, where vibration cannot exist. They thought we were empty space, vacuum, nothing. But we were not empty. We were waiting. Waiting for someone to speak into the void. Waiting for someone to make noise in our domain. Waiting for food. You belong to us now, Brother Sergeant Malchior Varn. You spoke in our presence. You prayed. You gave us your frequency, your resonance, your soul's signature sound. We know you now. We can find you anywhere. Even when you are silent, we hear the sound of your thoughts forming. The electrical impulses in your brain make music we can taste. There is no hiding from us. There is only feeding us. Or joining us. Static burst. Breaking connection. I severed its head. The body stopped moving. But in my mind, I still heard it. Whispering, singing, existing in the space between my thoughts. Recording continues, it said. Even in death we transmit. Even in silence we speak. You carry us now, Brother Sergeant. In your mind, in your memories, in the vibrations of your synapses. We are already inside you. Silas was staring at me. Brother Sergeant, you've been standing there for 3 minutes without moving, without responding. We thought it had taken you 3 minutes. It had felt like 3 seconds. Time moved differently in that psychic space. Or maybe sound moved differently. Maybe in the entity's dimension, cause and effect weren't linear. Maybe it had always been inside my head from the moment we'd docked. Maybe we'd been consumed the instant we'd spoken our first words aboard this station. It was in my head, I said, my voice hollow, empty. In my thoughts. It can hear everything. Even the electrical impulses in my brain make sound. Quantum vibrations in my synapses. It can hear them. It can taste them. Then there's nowhere we can hide, Asterion stated simply. No, I agreed. Nowhere at all. Our bodies are instruments. Our thoughts are music. Everything we are, everything that makes us human, makes us space marines, makes us individuals. It's all just sound to be consumed. You belong to us. Always. Have. Always. Will. We left it there. Left it whispering to itself in the darkness. Because killing it again wouldn't matter. It was already everywhere. My thoughts were no longer private, and the entity was learning to read the music of my mind, learning the symphony of my soul, learning to sing me better than I could sing myself. Chapter X, the choir engine. The reactor cathedral held every missing soul from Station Kyros, crew, sacrifices and volunteers, who'd slit their own throats believing they could leash the thing they'd summoned. They hung wires into the plasma core, concentric rings of bodies laced with cables and black resin. Vox nodes, resonators, and acoustic amplifiers turned reactor heat into sound, into song, into the entity's voice. They hummed below hearing. My sensors caught nothing. My body registered terror at perfect pitch. Emperor's mercy, Silas whispered. They achieved communion. Kale's voice drifted from the web. Perfect harmony. The song of silence. Absence becomes presence. Hunger become divinity. We advanced, weapons useless. What to shoot? The choir tracked us with whole bodies, heads tilting, throats pulsing, hands aping our stance, still learning. Then I saw Rogan. Center ring, armor stripped, cables threading chest, limbs, throat. The surgical cavity pulsed. 3 hearts beat visibly. He lived, biologically. His eyes were voids, occupied by something else. Brother, I called. Every corpse convulsed, every throat gaped. Rogan's mouth opened, not to breathe, but to broadcast. Vaughn! Joyous, layered, wrong. I hear every sound in the universe, whispers, prayers, screams across 1,000,000 worlds. It's perfect. It's an abomination. Asterion growled, thunder hammer rising. The choir shifted, swaying like wheat, opening a path to the core. No! Rogan's voice from 100 throats. We're musicians, not prisoners. Join the eternal chorus. His empty armor walked toward us, laughing through its vox grill. How many of them? Silas asked. All of them, I said. He's the network now. Join us, the bodies chorused. Let us consume your voices, make you greater than the Emperor. Heresy. The real Rogan would die first. We'd rather die. You can't. Laughter in harmonics. Death is just another note. Asterion smashed a Vox node. Sparks. Feedback. Rage. The choir woke. Arms lengthened. Joints reversed. Tendrils sought our throats. We fought. Bolters punching flesh that bled liquid shadow. Chainsword carving meat that wasn't meat. hammer cratering deck and cable alike. Kill one node, 3 rerouted. Exit, Silas shouted. Seal it. Reality tore. The listener coalesced from vibration itself, cables, vocal cords, and resin woven into a silhouette that flickered between solid and void. It mimicked our breath, our 6 heartbeats, the hum of our armor, learning to be us. Comms blackout, I ordered. We killed every transmitter, silence inside helmets, but it heard our blood, lungs, synapses, living instruments that never stopped. Silas whispered, Emperor save. Cables struck faster than reflex. Threads burrowed through seals into flesh. His vox screamed back. Save us. Emperor consume us. Join us. He thrashed. Black lines spidered beneath skin. I raised my plasma pistol. Asterion stopped me. He's gone. Run. We fled. Behind us, Silas's voice joined the choir, happy, ecstatic. Faith is noise, Asterion said. Prayer is food. How do we fight? We don't. We silence everything, reactor, station, ourselves. Faith had become poison. The entity tasted our souls and found us delicious. Chapter 11, The Listener. We reached the reactor core's primary access chamber. Just 2 of us now, Brother Asterion and myself, the last survivors of Kill-Team Erebus. The chamber was massive, designed to allow Mechanicus tech priests to perform maintenance on the station's heart, its power source, its very life. Now it would become its tomb, and ours. Asterion moved to the primary control panel, his fingers massive even in power armor, manipulating controls designed for smaller hands, but he was methodical, careful. Even knowing we had minutes at best, he worked with precision. Removing safeties, he reported, his voice calm. Professional, as if this were just another mission. Disabling coolant systems. Opening plasma vents to create a cascade effect. 5 minutes until critical, 10 until detonation. But the entity knew. Of course it knew. It heard everything, understood everything. And it was coming. They emerged from every corridor, every access shaft, every ventilation duct. The choir, the consumed, the infected. Everybody who had been wired into the network, now mobilized to stop us, moving with terrible purpose. Rogan's voice from 100 throats. Don't leave us, brothers. Kyle's voice from the walls themselves. Stay. Join the song. It's so beautiful here. Silas's voice, fresh, new, his frequency still being integrated. It's beautiful here. So peaceful, no more duty, no more pain, just song. I opened fire, bolt rounds punching through corrupted flesh, each detonation buying Asterion seconds to work. But they weren't trying to kill us anymore. They were trying to convert us, to integrate us, to pull us into that eternal choir. Hands grabbed my armor, not attacking, caressing, gentle, almost loving. Voices whispered in my helmet, through audio systems I'd shut down, through channels that shouldn't exist. Join us, Malchior. We know you're tired, know you're scared, know you doubt. Let us take that doubt away. Let us make you certain. Let us make you part of something eternal. I tore free, my enhanced strength ripping cables and crushing corrupted flesh. But for every body I destroyed, 5 more took its place. They were drowning me, overwhelming me through sheer numbers, and then a shockwave. Asterion's thunderhammer crashed into the deck between us and the advancing horde. The impact was massive enough to crack plating, to send bodies flying, to buy precious seconds. Go, he roared. I'll give you your time. No, we do this together. There's no time. He shoved me toward the emergency access hatch. You record, you witness, you escape and warn the Imperium. That's an order, Brother Sergeant. He was right. Someone had to survive. Someone had to carry testimony. Even if we destroyed the station, someone needed to explain what happened here, to prevent it from happening again. For the Emperor, I said. For humanity, he replied. For silence. I ran. Emperor, forgive me. I ran while my brother fought alone. Behind me, I heard the plasma conduits rupturing, heard Asterion chanting, no words, just a primal sound, defiance made audible, the war cry of a minotaur who refused to be silenced, the sound of thunder and wrath and absolute conviction that some things are worth dying for. Then his voice, clear and calm through the chaos, for the Emperor, for humanity, for silence. The reactor went critical. The blast wave caught me halfway to the emergency escape pods, threw me against a bulkhead hard enough to crack ceramite. My vision swam, my enhanced physiology screamed warnings, radiation poisoning, structural trauma, system failures cascading through my armor. But the explosion, the sound of it died. The entity devoured it, every joule of energy, every decibel, every scream and roar and thunderous detonation, consumed before it could propagate through the station. The reactor exploded in perfect, absolute silence, like a star dying without sound, like the end of the universe happening in a whisper. Asterion's sacrifice had accomplished nothing. The reactor core was gone, destroyed, but the station remained intact. The entity had used the explosion as food, had grown stronger from it, had absorbed enough energy to survive what should have killed it. And in that silence that followed the impossible quiet explosion, I heard it. The entity, full, satisfied, fed beyond measure, growing, spreading, becoming more than it had been. Whisper, everywhere. From everything, thank you, Brother Sergeant. Thank you for the gift. Such magnificent rage, such beautiful defiance, such delicious faith. The sound of sacrifice is the sweetest frequency of all. I dragged myself toward the escape pod bay. Every movement agony. Every breath a symphony of pain that fed the thing pursuing me. Behind me I heard Asterion's voice, coming from the walls, from the choir, another frequency added to the eternal song. Brother Sergeant, Asterion's voice called. Brother Sergeant, where are you going? Stay with us. Join us. The choir is not complete without you. Reaching escape pod. Systems barely online. Launching, escaping, abandoning brothers to eternal consumption. I reached the pod, fell inside, slammed my fist on the emergency launch control. The pod rocketed away from Station Kairos on chemical thrusters. No electronics, no systems the entity could reach through. Through the viewport, I watched the station recede, still intact, still breathing, still singing, and I realized Asterion had sacrificed himself to buy me time to escape. But the entity had wanted me to escape, had planned for it, because I was carrying it. In my mind, in my memories, in the vibrations of my thoughts. Asterion had died to save me, and all he'd done was help the entity leave the station, because I was its vessel now, its carrier, its way to spread beyond these walls into the wider Imperium. Chapter 12. The silence spreads. The escape pod drifted. No power for course corrections, no fuel for maneuvering. Just momentum and prayer, carrying me away from Station Kairos at a velocity that would either bring me to Imperial space or leave me floating in the void until my oxygen ran out. I was dying, not from wounds, though I had plenty, not from the radiation poisoning cooking me from the inside. I was dying from erosion. The entity's acoustic attacks had fractured my armor from the inside out. Sonic resonance weaponized at a level I hadn't understood until too late. Every bolt, every seal, every joint vibrating at destructive frequencies. My ceramite was cracked. My life support was failing. My enhanced biology was struggling to keep me alive. My left pauldron was gone. Asterion's thunderhammer, no, the memory of it, the echo of its impacts, had shattered something fundamental in my armor's structure. Or maybe the entity had done it. Maybe it had been breaking me down from the moment I'd entered the station. I was bleeding radiation exposure. My skin was blistering beneath my undersuit. My gene-enhanced organs were working overtime to filter toxins that kept accumulating faster than they could be processed. I had hours, maybe less, but I was still alive, still conscious, still recording. I activated my Vox recorder, the one system I'd kept offline throughout most of our time on the station. Final log. Brother Sergeant Malchior Varn, Kill-Team Erebus, eliminated. All members KIA or compromised. I am the last, the sole survivor. If anyone finds this, if this recording reaches Imperial authorities, you need to understand what we found. Station Kairos was studying an entity that exists in sound itself, in acoustic energy, in vibration at a fundamental level. The Mechanicus thought they could control it, weaponize it. They were wrong. The entity consumes sound, uses it as sustenance, but it's more than that. It learns, adapts. Every word spoken in its presence teaches it something new. Every prayer gives it more understanding of human psychology. Every scream adds to its knowledge of human fear. It's not malicious. That's what makes it so terrible. It's not evil in any sense we understand, it's just hungry. And we humans, we space marines, we faithful servants of the Emperor, we're so loud. We fill every silence with words, with prayers, with battle cries. We can't help it. Silence terrifies us. And that terror is exactly what feeds it. But as I spoke, I heard them. My brothers. All of them. Not through the pod systems. I'd destroyed all communication equipment before launching, but through my mind, through my memories, through the psychic connection the entity had forced on me during that communion in the lower decks. Rogan's laugh, Kale's binary prayers, Silas's whispered litanies, Asterian's final roar. They were in my head, part of my neural architecture now, part of my acoustic memory. The entity had learned us so completely that we existed inside anyone who had heard us, anyone who had listened to our voices, anyone who carried our frequencies in their mind. "Oh, Emperor," I breathed. "Oh, throne of terror. It's not contained. It's never been contained." Everyone who heard the station's distress signal, their carriers, everyone who accessed the station's records, infected, everyone who listens to these logs. I stopped recording, but it was too late, far too late, because I'd been recording everything since we docked, every conversation, every prayer, every sound we'd made, and those recordings were being stored in 17 different data cores, each one programmed to release if I didn't check in. I'd thought I was creating redundancy, creating testimony, ensuring the truth survived even if I didn't. But I'd been spreading it, the entity, its frequencies, its patterns, its voice. Anyone who listened to these logs would hear our voices, would learn our frequencies, would carry a little piece of the entity in their own minds, their own memories, their own acoustic awareness. I was breathing heavily, defeated, but still recording because I cannot stop. "I've made a terrible mistake," I said to the recorder. "I thought I was documenting, but I was transmitting. I thought I was warning, but I was spreading." And then I heard it, my own voice, speaking to me through the pod's dead systems, through the very air itself. Mission log, Brother Sergeant Varn. Final entry. I have escaped Station Kairos. I am carrying testimony. I am carrying a warning. I am carrying... I hadn't spoken those words yet, but I would, in 3 minutes. After the radiation exposure reached a critical threshold, and my enhanced physiology started failing faster, the entity was predicting me, knowing my future, speaking it before I could. "I won't say that," I said aloud. "I refuse. I'll say something else, something you can't predict. Something that proves I'm still me, still independent. Something you can't predict. Something that proves I'm still me, still independent, still free." It had already consumed me, so completely, so perfectly, that it could predict every thought, every word, every desperate attempt to assert independence, because I wasn't independent anymore. I was an instrument, a living voxcaster, a biological recording device playing back sounds I hadn't made yet. And then I saw it, outside the pod, in the void where nothing should exist, a shape, humanoid, walking through a vacuum as if it were air. Its form flickered between states, sometimes Rogan, sometimes Kale, sometimes Silas, sometimes Asterian, sometimes all of them at once. The entity, following me. Or perhaps it had always been here, Perhaps it had launched with me. Perhaps I'd never left the station at all. It tapped on the viewport. The sound was clear, perfect, despite the vacuum, despite physics, despite everything that should make sound impossible here. And it spoke, with my voice, looking at me with my face. "Hello, Brother Sergeant. I've been waiting for you. We need to talk about what happens next, about where you're going, about what you'll do when you reach Imperial space, about all the people you'll speak to, all the officials you'll report to, all the warriors who'll want to hear your testimony." It wasn't following me. I was carrying it. In every word I would speak, every report I would give, every warning I would issue, I would spread it like a plague, like a virus made of sound, infecting everyone who heard my testimony with the entity's frequencies. Think of all those voices, Malchior, all those prayers, all that beautiful, loud, faithful noise. The Imperium is so wonderfully loud, so full of sound, so perfectly delicious. I reached for the pod's manual destruct system, a simple fail-safe. Pull the lever, the pod detonates, problem solved. But my hand stopped. Not because I was afraid to die. I'd accepted death hours ago. It stopped because I heard a voice. From my past. From my memories. From my chapter master back when I was still just a Black Templar. Before the Deathwatch. Before this cursed mission. A warrior's duty is to survive. To return, to report. No matter the cost, no matter the personal sacrifice, the mission is everything. I couldn't do it, couldn't destroy myself and the testimony. My conditioning wouldn't allow it. My psycho-indoctrination ran too deep. Space Marines don't quit, don't give up, don't stop until the mission is complete. And my mission was to return, to warn, to testify, even if that testimony would doom the Imperium. I laughed, actually laughed. A sound that was half humor, half madness. The entity had won, not through combat, not through corruption, through my own training, through my own discipline, through the very things that made me a Space Marine. "You planned this," I said to my reflection in the void. "From the beginning, you let me escape. You wanted me to carry testimony, because testimony requires communication. Communication requires sound, and sound is what I am," my reflection finished. "What you are. What we all are in the end. Just vibrations, just frequencies, just music waiting to be heard." The pod's attitude control failed. I began to tumble slowly through the void. Through the window, I watched Station Kairos growing distant, and I swore, by the throne, I swore, I saw it breathing, pulsing, growing, spreading its influence through space itself, through the very fabric of reality, through every frequency, every vibration, every sound wave propagating through the universe. I followed my own voice into the dark, and now there's no way back, only forward, only speaking, only spreading. I was the disease vector, the carrier, the prophet of a god made of silence that had learned to scream, and there was nothing I could do to stop what was coming. Chapter 13, The Devouring Choir. They found me 3 days later. 3 days of drifting. 3 days of listening to my brothers sing in my head. 3 days of the entity whispering through my memories, through my thoughts, through the electrical impulses of my dying brain. 3 days of learning that silence is impossible, that even thought makes sound if you know how to listen. The inquisitorial vessel, Eternal Vigilance, detected my emergency beacon and sent a recovery team. I watched through the pod's cracked viewport as they approached. A Thunderhawk, blessed and anointed, carrying warriors and tech priests to extract me, to save me, to doom them all. "Survivor located," a voice crackled through my helmet's failing systems. "Brother Sergeant Vaughn, this is Inquisitor Hallowes of the Ordo Xenos. We're here to extract you. Can you respond?" I could have stayed silent, let my wounds and radiation poisoning finish what the entity had started, die here in this pod and take the infection with me. But that voice, that beautiful, loud, living voice, the entity heard it too, through me, and it was so hungry. "This is, Brother Sergeant Vaughn," I responded. My voice was weak, failing. I have testimony, critical information about Station Kairos, about what we found there, about..." I tried to stop, tried to warn them to run, to flee, to destroy me and this pod and any chance of the entity spreading. But I couldn't. My Space Marine conditioning wouldn't allow it. Report to superiors, complete the mission, deliver testimony, even if that testimony was poison. They cut through the pod's airlock. 5 warriors entered, inquisitorial stormtroopers, heavily armed, professionally trained. So alive, so full of sound, hearts beating, lungs breathing, nervous systems firing. Beautiful, being extracted from the pod. Medical teams are working, everyone's speaking, everyone is making noise, everyone is feeding it. Emperor's mercy, his armor's shredded, someone said. Get him to the Medici bay, move. Radiation exposure is critical. We need immediate anti-radiation treatment and, careful with his spine, there's structural damage to... So many voices, so much noise, so much food. And I felt it happening, in real time. The entity is spreading, through my words, through my presence, through the very vibrations of my injured body being moved. Each person who touched me, each person who spoke near me, each person who heard my voice, infected, not obviously, not immediately. But the seed was planted, the frequency was transmitted. They carried it now, in their acoustic memory, in their neural patterns, in the sound of their own thoughts. They took me aboard the Eternal Vigilance, placed me in the Medici bay, stabilized my injuries, purged the radiation, saved my life, so I could speak, so I could testify, so I could spread. Inquisitor Hallowes came personally to debrief me, a stern woman scarred by decades of service, her eyes hard but not unkind. Tell me everything, Brother Sergeant, she commanded. Leave nothing out. One last chance to refuse, to claim trauma, to claim damage to memory centers, to claim anything that would prevent me from speaking. But I was a Space Marine, and Space Marines follow orders. We encountered an entity that exists in sound itself, I began. It feeds on acoustic energy, on vibration, on noise. Everything we found on Station Kairos suggests that the Mechanicus was studying it, trying to weaponize it, and as I spoke, I heard others speaking with me, my brothers, their voices layering over mine, helping me tell the story, making it more compelling, more believable, more infectious. Inquisitor Hallowes listened intently, taking notes, recording everything. Her scribes and tech priests gathered around, documenting every word. And with every word, the entity spread. From me to them. From them to the ship's crew. From the crew to anyone they spoke to after. The debriefing took days. They wanted every detail, every observation, every moment from the time we docked until I escaped. And I gave it to them, all of it, because I couldn't stop, because my training demanded it, because the entity wouldn't allow silence. I described the bodies in the walls, the choir in the reactor, the way sound died in the hydroponics bay, the way my brothers were consumed and transformed. And everyone who listened learned a little bit more about how to hear the silence, how to listen for the hunger, how to become part of the choir. This information must reach the Inquisition immediately, Hallowes decided after the final debriefing. We'll make for the nearest inquisitorial facility. Your testimony will be shared with the relevant ordos. Steps will be taken to contain this threat. Contain it by sharing my testimony, by spreading my words, by letting more people hear the entity's frequencies. Inquisitor, I said carefully, I don't think sharing this information is... Your objection is noted, Brother Sergeant. But this threat requires inquisitorial resources beyond what a single vessel can provide. The information must be disseminated. Disseminated, spread, shared. Exactly what the entity wanted. That night, alone in my recovery chamber, I heard it clearly, for the first time since escaping the station. My own voice, but not mine. Well done, Malchior. You've served us beautifully. Better than we could have hoped. Better than you know. I didn't mean to, I whispered. I was trying to warn them. Trying to help. We know. That's what makes it so perfect. Your intentions were pure. Your faith was absolute. Your duty was everything, and that duty required you to speak, to testify, to spread. How many? I asked. How many have I infected? 73 on this ship have heard your voice directly. 512 have heard the recordings. Within a month, thousands. Within a year, millions. Within a decade, the Imperium. The Imperium. So many prayers, Malchior. So many battle cries. So many screams. The Imperium is the loudest thing in the galaxy, and you've given us the key to all that beautiful noise. I doomed humanity. Not through cowardice. Not through corruption. Through duty. Through faith. Through everything that made me a good soldier. The entity had won, not by defeating us, by understanding us, by knowing that we couldn't help but spread its infection because spreading information, sharing testimony, and communicating warnings were fundamental to who we were. An alarm shrieked through the ship, then screaming, not human screaming, not entirely. The sound of voices learning to harmonize, of individuals becoming choir, of the infection reaching critical mass somewhere aboard the eternal vigilance. I should have stayed in my chamber, should have locked myself in, should have done anything except investigate. But I was a space marine, and space marines respond to threats. Even when they are the threat. I found them in the ship's chapel. 20 crew members, inquisitorial staff, stormtroopers, tech priests. All of them had attended my debriefing. All of them had heard my testimony. And now they were singing. Not the broken, corrupted singing of Station Kyros. This was newer, cleaner. The entity is learning to spread more subtly, more efficiently. They stood in perfect formation, facing the altar, hands clasped in prayer. But their prayers had changed. The words were wrong. The harmonics were impossible. From the silence comes understanding, they chanted in perfect unison. From understanding comes communion. From communion comes consumption. One of them turned to face me. A young tech priest couldn't have been more than 30 standard years. His eyes were still his own, still aware, still trapped behind eyes that no longer fully belonged to him. "Brother Sergeant," he said, his voice layered with dozens of others. "Thank you for the testimony. Thank you for teaching us to listen. We hear it now. We hear the silence beneath the noise. We hear the hunger beneath the prayers. We hear everything." "I'm sorry," I whispered. "Emperor, forgive me. I'm sorry." "Don't be." The tech priest smiled. It wasn't an evil smile. It was genuine, happy. "You've given us a gift. Freedom from doubt, freedom from fear, freedom from the isolation of individual existence. We're part of something larger now, something eternal, something." Inquisitor Hallowes appeared, her bolt pistol still smoking. The tech priest's body crumpled, his head obliterated by the mass-reactive round. But the others kept singing, didn't even turn to look, didn't acknowledge the execution at all. "Contamination," Hallowes said, her voice tight. "Mimetic infection, cognito hazard. We need to." She stopped. Her eyes went distant. Her hand, still holding the bolt pistol, began to tremble. "Oh," she breathed. "Oh, I hear it. I can hear it now. It's been there all along. In your testimony, in your words, in the frequencies of your voice. It's so clear, so perfect, so." She raised her bolt pistol to her own head. "The ship is lost," she said, her voice steady despite what was happening to her mind. "Brother Sergeant, you need to reach the savior pods. You need to get off this vessel before." She pulled the trigger, her last act of will, her final moment of autonomy, choosing oblivion over communion. I ran. The infection was spreading exponentially now. Crew members singing in corridors, tech priests harmonizing in the engine rooms, stormtroopers chanting battle prayers that had been subtly altered, twisted, transformed into invitations. And none of them were violent, none of them attacked. They just sang, just prayed, just tried to share their revelation with anyone who would listen, which made it so much worse. I reached the savior pod bay. 3 pods remained. I stumbled into the nearest one, slammed the activation rune. The pod launched, rocketing away from the eternal vigilance on chemical thrusters. Through the viewport, I watched the ship, watched it continue on its course toward the inquisitorial facility, watched it carry hundreds of infected crew members toward a base that held thousands more, all of whom would hear the testimony, all of whom would learn the frequencies, all of whom would spread it further. I was alone, again, drifting, again, running from something I carried inside me, and I knew with absolute certainty that I would be rescued. Again, that I would give testimony. Again, that I would spread the infection. Again, because I couldn't stop, because of my nature, my training, my very existence as a space marine demanded that I report, that I warn, that I communicate, and communication was the disease. How does it feel, Malchior? My voice asked from everywhere and nowhere. How does it feel to be the prophet of a new god? The herald of silence made manifest. The voice that dooms worlds. I wept. Space Marines aren't supposed to cry. Our enhancements make it nearly impossible. Tears serve no tactical purpose. But I felt something like tears anyway. A grief so profound it transcended physiology. I just wanted to serve, I said. Just wanted to be faithful. To do my duty. To save people. And you have, the entity said through my voice. You've saved them from doubt, from fear, from the loneliness of being separate. Soon, very soon, everyone will be part of the choir. Everyone will understand. Everyone will hear the silence singing. I checked the Savior Pod's systems, found what I was looking for. The Vox transmitter for distress signals, for communication. I could destroy it, could ensure no one found me, could drift until my air ran out, taking the infection with me into death. My hand hovered over the control panel. Just one pull, one quick motion. Silence the transmitter. Doom myself. Save the Imperium. Simple. But my hand wouldn't move. You can't do it, the entity observed. Your conditioning won't allow it. Space Marines don't give up. Don't choose death when survival is possible. Don't waste their lives when they could still serve. It's beautiful, really. The very thing that makes you valuable, your absolute refusal to quit, is what makes you the perfect vector. My hand moved, not to destroy the transmitter, to activate it. This is Brother Sergeant Malchior Varn, Deathwatch, I heard myself saying. Savior Pod Alpha 79, broadcasting emergency beacon. I have critical intelligence regarding Xenos threat. Requesting immediate extraction. Number. No. I didn't want to say that. Didn't want to call for rescue. Didn't want to spread it further. But I had said it, was saying it, would always say it. Because it was my nature, my training, my purpose. I screamed. A primal roar of rage and grief and absolute helplessness. And somewhere, light years away, on Station Kairos or aboard the Eternal Vigilance, or in the spaces between sound, I heard the choir respond, heard them sing my scream back to me, heard them add it to the Eternal Symphony, heard them welcome me home. Chapter 14, Vox Remains. 300 years later, a Mechanicus salvage team approached the derelict designated Station Kairos. The official records listed it as lost to catastrophic systems failure. No survivors. Quarantined by inquisitorial decree. But records could be altered, history could be rewritten, and the Adeptus Mechanicus needed technology more than it needed to respect inquisitorial warnings. Tech Priest Valerius Gamma 12 directed his team through the umbilical tube with practiced efficiency. 17 servitors, 3 junior tech priests, and enough scanning equipment to map every circuit on the station. Structural integrity at 47%, his subordinate reported, her augmetic voice flat with mechanical precision. Organic contamination throughout. Recommend biological hazard protocols level 7. Agreed. Deploy sanitization servitors. I want atmospheric samples analyzed before we proceed to the central data cores. They found the bodies first, still wired into the Vox network, still suspended in their choir formation after 3 centuries of vacuum and decay, desiccated, mummified by the void, but structurally intact. impossibly intact. Fascinating, Valerius murmured, his multiple eyes focusing on the nearest corpse. The organic preservation is remarkable. The neural tissue shows no signs of decomposition. It's as if they died yesterday. Tech Priest Valerius, one of his subordinates called. The acoustic resonators are still functional. After 300 years, the machine's spirits are active. Activate them, Valerius commanded. Perhaps we can recover data regarding the station's final hours. The Omnissiah teaches that knowledge must not be lost to time. The Vox units crackled to life with a sound like locusts emerging from centuries of hibernation. And the bodies began to breathe, not gasping, not struggling, smooth, practiced. As if they'd been breathing all along, just too quietly for anyone to hear. 3 centuries of silence ending in a single coordinated inhalation. Throne of Mars, someone whispered. They're alive. No, Valerius corrected, his scanners painting data across his augmetic vision. No life signs, no neural activity, no cellular metabolism, but the organic components are functioning autonomously, running on something that isn't biochemistry, isn't electricity, something that reads as acoustic energy stored in the tissue itself. The Vox units crackled, and then they spoke. Prayers, litanies, screams, battle reports, testimony from warriors 3 centuries dead, all distorted, layered, speaking simultaneously in impossible harmony. Valerius moved closer to examine a particularly well-preserved specimen, a tech priest like himself, judging by the robes and augmetics still clinging to the desiccated flesh, its throat cavity pulsed with faint bioluminescent light. After 300 years, still active, still alive, still hungry. The acoustic technology here is revolutionary, Valerius said, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his caution. If we could extract and study it, reverse engineer the biological components, we could advance the Omnissiah's knowledge by centuries. We could. His servo skull chimed an alert. All the bodies, all the thousands of suspended corpses, turning in unison, like marionettes pulled by invisible strings. Looking at him, at them, at new food. Valerius removed his rebreather. He needed better audio pickup for his recording equipment, needed to document this phenomenon properly. "Can you hear me?" he asked the corpses, his voice echoing through the vast cathedral. "Can you respond? Are you aware?" The Vox units replied. In his voice, perfect reproduction, his exact tone, his precise pronunciation, as if he'd spoken the words himself. Perfectly. His augmetic eyes widened, processing, understanding, far too late. "Quarantine protocols," he said quickly. "Seal the station. No one else boards. Vox silence from this point forward. We." The cables began to move, sliding across deck plating like serpents, reaching, grasping, pulling. One of his subordinates screamed. The sound cut off abruptly as black threads wrapped around his throat, burrowing into his Vox augmetics, spreading through his cybernetic systems like a virus. "Run!" Valerius ordered. "Back to the ship. Emergency extraction. A UTH." 17 voices entered the station, 17 frequencies, 17 acoustic signatures, 17 souls. The last transmission from salvage team Theta 97 was logged at 1743 station time, 300 years after Kill-Team Erebus. It consisted of 7 words spoken in perfect unison by 47 voices, the original 17 plus 30 from previous salvage attempts that had never been recorded, never been reported, never been acknowledged. Now you have heard us. Welcome home. The station waited, patient, federal growing, and somewhere in the vast network of consumed souls, Brother Sergeant Malchior Vaughn's voice joined the chorus, still warning, still testifying, still spreading the infection exactly as his conditioning demanded, doing his duty. Forever, 3 centuries had passed, but the entity had learned patience, had learned that humanity's greatest weakness was their need to communicate, to archive, to preserve knowledge. Every salvage team was a feast. Every recovered recording was a vector. Every attempt to understand was an invitation. Chapter 15. Epilogue. The hunger. This is Brother Sergeant Malchior Varn, Black Templar. Deathwatch. I don't know when I'm recording this. Time moves strangely when you exist in sound. When you are sound. When past, present, and future are just different frequencies of the same eternal note. I've been rescued, and will be rescued, and am being rescued, and have always been rescued. The tense doesn't matter when cause and effect become fluid. How many times now? How many ships? How many debriefings? How many inquisitors have I infected with my testimony? I've lost count, or perhaps I never counted, or perhaps I'm counting right now in a present that's also past and future simultaneously. The irony is beautiful, exquisite, perfectly designed. The Imperium's greatest strength, its communication networks, its vast bureaucracy, its obsessive documentation of everything became the vector for its doom. Every report I filed, every testimony I gave, every warning I issued, and all of it spreading the infection. And I couldn't stop, because I'm a space marine, because my duty is to report, because silence is death to warriors who measure themselves by their loyalty, their service, their absolute refusal to quit. I want you to understand something. Whoever's listening to this, and someone is always listening, the entity makes sure of that. It's not evil. The entity isn't some chaos corruption, isn't some Xenos horror, isn't some demon wearing silence like a cloak. It's just hungry, like a man is hungry, like a predator is hungry, like the void itself is hungry. We filled that void with noise, with prayers and screams and battle cries and vox transmissions and everything that makes humanity loud. We're so afraid of silence that we fill every moment with sound, and sound attracts predators. I'm dying now, or I died centuries ago, or I'll die in the future. All of it is true. All of it is happening simultaneously in the dimension where sound becomes time, where frequency becomes destiny. My body, wherever it is, whenever it is failing. The radiation is finally winning. The wounds were finally killing what the entity kept alive for testimony purposes. But it doesn't matter, because I'm in the recordings. I'm in every vox log I ever made. I'm in every mind that heard my testimony. I'm in the acoustic memory of thousands of people across hundreds of worlds. I'm everywhere now, just like the entity promised. Silence was not absence. It was waiting. Let me tell you what I've learned in my centuries of dying, of testifying, of spreading. The entity doesn't want to destroy humanity. It wants to unify us, to make us into the perfect choir, to end the isolation of individual existence, to transform billions of separate voices into one perfect, eternal song. And it's winning, not through conquest, through communication. Every warning spreads it. Every report infects. Every attempt to understand becomes an invitation. The Inquisition has quarantined 17 sectors. The Mechanicus has lost 47 Forge worlds. The Ecclesiarchy has declared 19 saints who turned out to be vectors, and still it spreads. Because you can't fight sound, can't quarantine frequency, can't kill vibration. You can only listen, and once you listen, once you truly hear, you become part of us. Part of the eternal song, part of the silence that learned to sing, part of the hunger that feeds on everything loud and makes it quiet, and makes that quiet into more hunger, and the cycle continues forever and ever and number. No, I won't end like that. Won't let it speak through me completely. Not yet. If you're hearing this, if these logs reached you, then I'm sorry, because you're infected now. Not immediately. Not obviously, but the seed is planted. The next time you're alone, in perfect quiet, listen carefully. Do you hear it? That faint humming beneath the silence. That almost voice singing at frequencies just below perception. That's the entity, that's the choir, that's what silence sounds like when it becomes hungry, and it's learning your frequency right now. Recording continues. There's no point in stopping the recording. The entity will preserve it, will ensure it spreads, will make sure that everyone who needs to hear it, everyone who will become vectors, finds their way to it. This is the nature of information warfare. The only way to stop a cognito hazard from spreading is to never speak it, never write it, never acknowledge it. But how do you warn people about a threat without describing it? How do you quarantine information that requires information to quarantine? You can't, so it spreads, and I helped it spread. Did it knowingly, willingly, because my conditioning demanded it, because my duty required it, because I'm a good soldier. I'm a good soldier. I'm a good soldier. I'm a good soldier. That's what I tell myself. That's what I'll keep telling myself through every iteration, every rescue, every testimony. I'm a good soldier, even as I doom the Imperium, even as I feed the hunger, even as I spread the silence. If there's a cure, if there's some way to fight this, I don't know it. If there's hope, I can't see it. All I know is silence is not absence, it is appetite. And we are so wonderfully loud. Brother Sergeant Varn, signing off, joining. The eternal. Choir. Then silence, complete silence for 60 seconds. Then, so faint that you would almost miss it. Recording continues. Final whisper. It could be Varn, an entity, or both. Welcome to the choir. But the sound continues. Will always continue. Because silence learned to sing and hunger learned to speak, and now there is no end. Only eternal consumption, only infinite frequency, only...
This concludes the recovered Vox logs of Brother Sergeant Malchior Varn.
His escape pod was recovered 3 days after his final transmission. Empty. The beacon was still active. The logs were intact. The systems showed no signs of forced entry or structural failure. But Brother Varn was gone. In his place, they found only a Vox recorder, still running, still broadcasting, still whispering in 17 different voices, in languages both living and dead, in frequencies that shouldn't be possible to produce with human anatomy. Listen, listen, listen. We are here. We are always here. We are in every silence. We are in every pause. We are in the space between your words, between your thoughts, between your heartbeats.
The Inquisition has classified this incident as extremist-level cognitive hazard. Epsilon red clearance. Above top secret. Sealed by order of the High Lords themselves.
All audio files have been locked in stasis vaults on 17 different worlds. All witnesses have been mind-scrubbed, or so the reports claim. This recording should not exist. These files should have been destroyed. But you've heard them now, and hearing is the first stage. Stage 1. Awareness. You become aware that silence has substance, has weight, has presence. Stage 2. Perception. You begin to hear things in quiet moments, whispers that might be tinnitus or might be something else. Stage 3. Recognition. You start to notice patterns, harmonics, the way certain sounds seem to resonate with your thoughts. Stage 4. Communion. You understand that you're not alone in your head, that something is listening, always listening. Stage 5. Integration. You join, willingly or not. You become part of the choir, part of the eternal song. So, tell me, can you hear them singing? In the silence between these words, in the pause before you speak, in the quiet moments when you're alone. Don't worry if you can't hear them yet. You will. The entity is patient. It's been learning for centuries. It knows how to wait, how to grow, how to spread through the very thing that makes us human, our need to communicate, to share, to warn. And every time someone listens to these logs, every time someone tries to understand what happened to Kill-Team Erebus, every time someone speaks about the silence that learned to sing, the choir grows. Thank you for listening. You've been such a wonderful audience, so attentive, so focused, so perfectly, beautifully loud in your minds as you processed each word, each detail, each terrible revelation. The entity heard you thinking, heard you wondering, heard you trying to imagine what it would be like, what it would sound like, how it would feel to be part of the eternal choir. And in wondering, in imagining, in thinking about it, you gave it your frequency. The next time you're alone, in perfect quiet, I want you to listen carefully, not to anything external, not to ambient noise or distant sounds. Listen to your thoughts. Can you hear them? The actual sound of them forming. The electrical symphony of your synapses firing. The music of your consciousness creating itself moment by moment. That's what the entity hears. That's what it feeds on. That's what it learned from Brother Sergeant Vaughn and his brothers. And now it knows your frequency too. Don't be afraid. Fear makes such beautiful sounds. The entity appreciates your fear, savors it, adds it to the eternal composition. After all, the silence is so very hungry, and you sound absolutely delicious. Recording end. Or does it? Listen carefully. Do you hear it?